Here are a couple of tips that you should already know. If the numbers are even, just cut them in half. You write this to if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3.
This is a listening check. Color in what I'm writing right now.
Then divide by 3 and 9. If the last digit ends in a 0, so for example this one ends in a 0, it's divisible by 10. If the last digit is a 5, then it's divisible by 5. That way you can quickly get those numbers. Alright, so the first thing says list the multiplication numbers. In other words, do 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I never know what the answer is, so I'm just going to list a few out.
This is a listening check. Underline the title, finding two
And
numbers.
if I need more, I'll just do it. Okay, so I've done the first step. Start filling the spaces by dividing. Okay, so I'm looking at this number multiplies to negative 30. Okay, so I'm trying to fill this. What numbers multiply by what to give me negative 30? Okay, so it says here, if it's even, we can cut it in half. So it's an even number, so I'm only going to focus on positive 30. It's an even number, so I can cut it in half. All right, 1 times what gives me 30? 1 times 30. All right, I know it's an even number, so I can cut it in half, which means it's divisible by 2, right? So if I take 30 and cut 30 in half, what's half of 30? If you don't know half of 30, you can break 30 down. If you were to give me 30 in terms of money, what would you hand me? You could give me, and there's so many ways you could do this, but you could give me $20 plus another $10. That would give me $30, right? Now, can you cut half of this? Yes. Half of $20 is $10 plus, what's half of $10? $5, which totals out to be $15. So half of $30 is $15. If you know it right off the bat, good. If not, then you can break it down. So half of 30 is 15. So that means 2 times 15 is going to give me 30. This might take a little bit of getting used to, but I'm just going to show you how to do it without a calculator because there are some questions without a calculator. If I had, say I had a pizza. That's my pizza. And I cut it in half. Cutting it in half means I have 2 pieces, right? So I took this 30 and I cut it in half. So that means this side is 15 and this side is 15 to give me the 30, right? If I took that same pizza and cut it again, so it's already cut in half, and I cut it one more time in half, how many pieces will I have? So I take this half and I cut it in half. I take that half and I cut it in half. How many pieces do you see? 4. Okay, so what that is saying is if I take the number, this one right here, and I cut it in half again, it'll give me 4 times. Now, can I cut 15 in half? No, because it is an odd number, which means I don't have 4 times anything to give 30. If I take those 4 pieces and I cut them in half again, so I take each of these 4 and I cut them in half again, each of them. How many pieces do I now have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces. But because there was no 4 times anything to give me 30, that means there's no 8 times anything to give me 30. If I take each of those 8 pieces and I cut them in half again, and I'm not going to count them this time, but how many pieces do you think that I'm going to get? 16. That means if there was nothing for 4, there was nothing for 8, then there's also nothing for 16. Okay. In this example, I don't need it so much. So I want to move on to the next number. 3 times what gives me 30? So remember, if the last digit is a 0, then you can divide by 10. And anytime you're dividing by 10, all you have to do is get rid of that 1 0. So 3 times 10 is 30. Okay, so 3 times 10. Okay. If I had a pizza and I cut it into 3 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, right? So each of these equal parts, they're what? 10. They're worth 10, right? Because 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30, right? If I take each of those pieces of pizza and I cut those in half, so I cut this pizza slice in half, this one in half, this one in half, how many pieces do I now have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 pieces. So I took each of them being 10 and I cut them each in half. So this one was 5, this is 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 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 5 would be equal to 30. And the faster way of actually doing that is you take your 3 one already, which is a 10, right? All right, and I cut that in half and I'm going to get 5 and that will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 times 5. If I take each of those 6 slices again and I cut those in half, how many slices will I now have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I will have 12 slices, but can I cut this number in half again? I can't, which means there is no 12 times anything to be 30. Okay? Now, the entire time I'm doing this, right? So I'm filling out spaces by dividing. You need to look out for numbers that are close to what you're adding it to. Okay, so if you look at these two numbers, can they add to 7? No. What about these two? No, you've got like 17. Add or subtract 7. You got 17, 13. What about this? Yeah, this could work. 3 and 10. But if I subtract, I'll get my 7, right? So when you get your two numbers that are close to what you're adding to, you're gonna write down those two numbers. So I'm gonna write down those two numbers right now. So the two numbers are 3 and 10. Play with the signs so that when you add them together, they're equal to what you're looking for. So I need them to be -7, which means I need negatives to win. That means I need negatives to win. I'm going to attach to the bigger number. Okay, so this is what I think it is. Now, you're going to check your answer every time because sometimes it won't work. Okay, so I'm going to check my answer. So do these two numbers multiply to -30 and add to -7. So 3, this is my check. 3 times -10 is equal, positive times a negative is a negative, 3 times 10 is 30. And then 3 minus 10, negatives are going to win by 7. Do they add to -7? They do. So these are the two numbers that multiply to -30 and add to -7. All right, it's going to seem a little bit confusing, but just pause. Let's do another one and take our time. Okay. All right. Multiply two numbers that multiply to 126 and add to -27. Again, you start by listing out the multiplications. So 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times.
This is a listening check with a box around 126 and -27.
Okay, I might need more, I might need less, I don't know. Okay, all right, start filling the spaces by dividing. 1 times what is 126? That's 126. Are those two numbers close to giving me this? No. So 2 times, okay. Remember, if it's even, I can cut it in half, right? Is it even? It is. So I can cut this number, 126, in half. If I don't know already how to cut this in half without a calculator, I can break it down, okay? So I'm going to break it down on the side for you over here. So you start off with what you need, which is 126, and you need to cut this in half. If you were to give me this in money, what would you give me? You could give me $100 plus a $20 bill plus 6 individual dollars, right? So you give me all of this, it'll be 126. Can you cut these numbers in half? Yeah, they're easier numbers to cut. So if I cut 100 in half, what would I get? 50. If I cut 20 in half, what would I get? 10. If I cut 6 in half, what would I get? 3. So that'll be 50 plus 10 is 60 plus 3 is 63. So half of 126 is 63. So 2 times 63 equals 126. Okay. Now, to get rid of some options so I'm not checking every single number, okay, I'm going to do this pizza thing. So remember, if you have a pizza and you've cut it in half, right? Because that's what I did. I have this piece is 63, this piece is 63, right? All right, if I take each of those pieces and I cut those pieces in half, how many pieces do I now have? 4. So if I take that number and cut it in half, it'll give me my 4. Can I cut 63 in half? No, because it's an odd number, which means there is no 4. If I take my 4 pieces and cut each of those 4 pieces in half, each of them, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8. But there's no number for me. In my 4 pieces, I didn't have like an even number, so I cannot have 8. If I take each of those 8 pieces and cut those in half, I will have 60. And because there was no 8, then there is no 60. This is just an elimination number because sometimes it takes you a while to find these two numbers. Okay, so I can move on to the next number, which is 3 times, okay? Remember, for 3 times, you need to check if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, then divide by 3 or 9, okay? So I need to check, when I add these digits up, is it going to be divisible by 3? So let's take a look at that. So I have 1 plus 2 plus 6, which is equal to 3 plus 6, 9. So it is divisible by 3. Unfortunately, if you don't know long division, now is the time to learn. So you put what you're dividing by outside, and what you need to divide inside. Then you ask yourself, how many times does 3 go into 12? It goes 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. Then you subtract. That's going to give me 0. Bring down to 6. 3 into 6, how many times? 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Then subtract. No remainder. So 3 times 42, 3 times 42 is equal to 126. Okay? So again, draw my pizza so that you don't have to keep doing long division of every single question. You have 3 pieces right now. Okay? You have 3 pieces. You're going to take each of those pieces and cut them in half. How many pieces do you now have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 pieces, so this will be my answer for 6. And what you're going to do is each of those 3 pieces are worth 42. So you're going to take 42 and cut that in half. What's half of 42? 21. So 6 times 21 is equal to 126. If I have 6 pieces and I cut each of those pieces in half, how many pieces do I now have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 pieces. So if I take 21 and cut that in half, it will give me the answer for 12. Can I cut 21 in half? No, because it is an odd number. So this does not exist. Okay. Now the entire time you're doing this, remember you're looking for numbers that will add or subtract to this 27, right? So right here, 6 and 21, that, if I add them together, I'll get my 27. So it says write down the 2 numbers. So that's 6 and 21. Play with the signs so that you can get this. So how do I get this to add to negative 27? If I need negatives to win, they both need to be negative. Check your answer.
This is a listening check. Color in negative 6, negative 21.
Negative 6 times negative 21 and 6 minus 21. Negative times negative is positive. 6 times 21 is 126. Negative 6 minus 21 is more negatives, 27. And those are the 2 numbers that I was looking for. So that's it.